Over the years, our kids have had a lot of illnesses. 6 kids means a lot of childhood sniffles and coughs. And when our kids weren't feeling well, it affected our entire home. Luckily, some clever guys in Brisbane have come up with the perfect solution: Rehydrate.
Rehydrate are delicious drinks that rehydrate up to 3 times faster than water alone, packed with essential electrolytes. Rehydrate is one of the few rehydration products that is safe for all ages. Stock up at Coles and be prepared whenever illness strikes.
Post-secondary education, it makes a lot of promises about what its product is, and it doesn't always deliver, or it delivers that particular product to a very small subset of students.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. Hello, my name's Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm the husband of my podcast partner and wife, Mrs. Happy Families, Kylie Coulson, who joins us to talk today about big kids. We're the parents, by the way, of 6 kids, and our second daughter is finishing Year 12. She's in the throes of her first week of Year 12 final exams. Some kids around the nation started their exams last week, but today we're going to dive into this conversation and talk about what we can do to help our kids get through this really challenging time.
Well, it's that time of year when the students are starting to get really stressed. Parents are getting stressed, and our grade 12 students feel the pressure of what they are going to be doing next year.
Yeah, and there's all that societal pressure as well around going to university. But uni, I say this all the time, your kids shouldn't go to university. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Some children might be better off doing a trade or some other qualification. Some children just need to take a gap year and grow up and have a little bit of life experience before they settle in to actually being adults.
So today on the podcast, we're talking with Adina Glickman, who is an academic and a life and career coach, and she's helped many thousands of students achieve their academic and life goals during her almost 20 years at Stanford University.
That's a big deal. Stanford's a big deal. 20 years there is, we're talking to somebody who knows her stuff today.
She really does. Adina founded the Stanford Resilience Project and the Academic Resilience Consortium, a collective of higher education professionals from 16 countries.
So Adina's got this wealth of knowledge in the area of education and resilience and has a load of useful tips for parents and students. So Adina, welcome to the podcast. Can you expand a little bit on your work for us?
My work is with mostly 12th year high school students, helping them be successful and effective and satisfied in their educational process. I also work with college students once they're in college, when they're floundering or struggling, and I also work with recent grads who are sort of, okay, now I learned all this, now what do I do and what do I want to do with it? But largely my focus is on helping students be effective learners. So I help them learn how to learn.
It's been such a crazy year, but specifically, it's been really hard on our Year 12s.
Yeah.
Some of them have missed milestone events like formals. Some may have not even been able to do exams the way they expected. What advice do you have for parents who have children who have been battling through a disrupted year only to throw their hands up and say, this is dumb, I give up?
Mm-hmm. Well, I say I hear you. And, even when there wasn't a pandemic, there was plenty to hate about school.
True.
What I hear from a lot of parents is my kid's not motivated. And I always think that simply can't be true. It's that we don't know what they're motivated for. I actually was just talking with a college student this morning who he said, I forget everything. I said, everything? I said, well, when you leave, you get up in the morning, do you forget to go to the bathroom? No, I never forget to do that. And I never forget to eat, and I never forget my wallet, and I never forget my phone. So ask, given the right question, he remembers a lot of things. When you ask a kid or observe as a parent what motivates you, lots of things motivate kids. They may not be academic, but they're motivators. And the thing about feeling motivated is that it's not a threshold that you cross. Okay, now I've become motivated. It's a place that you get to that can help buoy you to the next thing. So if you're in a state where the only thing what motivates me is getting to go outside. I love being out in nature. if you have a kid who like loves watching, YouTube videos of puppies, that motivates them. What they feel inside and what they get out of that matters. So you start to develop a sense and a vocabulary around what motivates your child, what they feel like when they're motivated, how they act when they're motivated. And you say, well, you know what, let's watch a few videos of puppies and let's just have a minute to feel good. And then let's have the conversation about, what can we do with this school thing to make it less, abysmal. But you can't do that if they're just completely pushing it away. So you have to help them find what motivates them, and then use that. And then when they're a little older, actually, you can actually start to draw connections. So see if you can, you can say to your kid, what do you think is the relationship between puppies and math? And they'll be like, what? But it's a game. It becomes a game. And one of the things that they may like about puppy videos is that it's sweet and endearing and makes them feel like there's love. So you say, well, if there's more puppies, will there be more love? That's a math question. So you can turn it into something that relates exactly to the thing that matters to them.
I know that there are some parents who are listening to this though and going, yeah, but my child, as soon as we bring up school, the walls come up. There's just no getting through. I think I was that child. I was right into surfing. I would wag school and go to the beach, to be honest. But what's a parent supposed to do in that instance? Because you're not the boss of your kid. Yeah.
Well, I think that it means as a parent, as your parent, maybe stepping back and saying, what are my grudges against having a son who's a surfer? And what are my real worries? And most parents will say, well, I want my kid to be happy. I want them to be independent and prosperous and healthy. So if I can say this thing that you want to do precludes those, then I have an argument. But in fact, there are pro surfers and they do make money and they are happy and they are prosperous. So I would say, okay, you want to be a surfer? Totally fine with me. Surfboards cost money. And getting sponsorships is work, and managing your finances, if you don't have enough to really pay for somebody to manage your finances, is going to be your job. So there's 3 sets of skills right there that you're going to need to master. And in service of being a professional surfer, let's figure out how they connect to supporting that effort. So it's not, in this case, it's not necessarily an abstract connection between surfing and math and wave and curve. It's, you want to do this, you need to learn about banking and you need to learn about how to manage your finances.
It's a kind of a reassuring approach that you've suggested there, not so much from the academic perspective, although I know that that's important and I want to acknowledge that. But I think from a purely personal perspective, what you're saying to your child is, I have these aspirations and dreams for you. I want you to be your best you. And my mindset is that if you go and get into the right university course and study hard and et cetera, you'll have a successful life. But there's so much value for so many children will thrive if they do a trade. It might not be what the parent wants them to do. I mean, there's nothing the matter with trade. We can't live without tradespeople. But some parents that I speak to are so fixated on this university education, forgetting that electricians and plumbers and hairdressers and tradespeople of all different professions, they live wonderful lives and they make extraordinary contributions. And it's not just honourable, like it's a fabulous way to live. You don't have to go to university to have a successful life.
That's somehow the reputation that university now has sort of, it is a guarantee of some sort of success, and it's just not.
Yeah, it's almost like if you don't go to uni, you're a failure, and you're a failure as a parent because your kids didn't get there. And it's just there's stigma attached to not going in too many circles now. I think that's a damaging thing.
I completely agree. You know, higher education, post-secondary education makes a promise. And at least in the States, I think that its promise has not always been fulfilled, largely because in the States it's an industry, and it's an industry that needs to sustain itself. And so it makes a lot of promises about what its product is, and it doesn't always deliver, or it delivers for that particular product to a very small subset of students. I worked at Stanford for almost 20 years, advising students. I ran their academic coaching program. And there were only a small handful of students who really got exactly what they needed and wanted out of being in college. Everybody else, really 96% probably, 95 to 96% of the students I worked with had to adjust the reality to what the promise had been. Oh, so, I haven't found my best friends in my life. And these aren't the greatest 4 years of my life. And I don't love being in huge classes. And I don't like it. I don't like this. This isn't working for me. What works for me is exploration or problem solving or projects or, and the college experience is very different from what they really need. So I think it's most important for parents to say, again, I have to learn who my child is, not who the child should be. I need to know who my child is, what makes them tick, so that they feel seen and heard, and so that they can find the thing that leads them to their contribution. Because that's, in fact, the thing that makes a happy person. Is that they feel purposeful, that they feel they're making a contribution, that they're valued, and not by their parents necessarily. Because we get to my age, I don't think about whether my parents value me. I think about whether the people I work with value me, whether the clients I have feel I'm useful to them. That's the contribution. So at some point, your kids are not going to be looking to you for that determination. They're going to be looking inside for the intrinsic value that they have and that they bring.
It kind of goes back to what you said before. Our children are the experts in them. And our job is to help them to actually have the confidence, to empower them to live into that expertise that they have about themselves. We're not the boss of them.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
I was a university lecturer for a couple of years once I finished my postgraduate studies and got my doctorate. And what I discovered was something that's not unique at all, and that is that the mature age students, the ones who'd had a gap year or maybe a gap decade or maybe a gap lifetime in some cases, it was those mature age students. They weren't trying to get through uni. They were trying to get uni to go through them. The quality of their learning was different. How do we help our children to get to that stage? Is it right that we actually just should be encouraging gap years? Obviously all children mature in different ways at different times, but are 17 and 18-year-old kids really ready for what university can be when university works right?
Of course, they can be. I think that the way that we need to help our kids is to teach them how to hear their own voice. And that starts with them hearing less of our voice. If we fill up the space with here's what I think is good for you, and here's what I've experienced, and here's what I know, and here's what we value as a family and what I think you should value. For survival, we're programmed to take what our parents say and integrate it. That's how we survive. That's how we survive as infants. We make ourselves make sense to our parents. And as they get older, they're still looking for, how can I make sure that my mom will still take care of me, that my parents will protect me? And so we, as kids, do a lot of agreeing and integrating what we're hearing and saying, okay, that's what's right. That's what the parents say. That's what's right. And there's something in us that's shifting and becoming who we are and becoming independent and separate from parents. And what I think parents need to start to do is earlier than high school, really start to respect that their kids have their own internal compasses and their own internal voices saying, this is what feels right to me, this is what doesn't feel right to me. And it's always my job as a parent, especially when my child is still living with me, to say, okay, I hear that. Play that out and see where that goes. What do you imagine will happen next? Because they're still, their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until they're 25, 28. So it's still my job to help them develop the judgment and be able to anticipate what that idea might lead to. But the basis of it is that they have to be able to hear themselves think, and they have to see that that may be different from what I think. And they have to learn how to tender their own thoughts and their own desires and their own ambitions with my appreciation and my respect, not my effort to replace it with my own because it makes sense to me.
So how do we help our students remain resilient? How do we provide some firm direction while also being that soft place for children to land when they're struggling?
Sometimes I think that parents feel that because school has such it's a formal institution, and formal education is a structure that is now, I think, alien to parents, because it's been a long time since we've been in school.
It's changed a bit, yeah.
They just assume, well, the authority structure of the school knows as much as it should know, and it's doing the right thing. Just like I know as much as I know, and I always try and do the right thing. But the fact is that when kids experience, if a kid fails an exam, it's not just because the kid didn't study hard enough or didn't learn well enough. Sometimes it's because they weren't told about the exam until, 15 minutes before it was going to be given, and they weren't prepared. Or, I saw so many examples when my son was in high school of, you've got 6 classes and assignments working at cross purposes and double booked hours and just impossible situations. Parents have to say, yeah, they're making a mistake, and I'm really sorry that you've got to, deal with their error or their policy. And I'm going to stand by you, and I'm going to help you. But it's not all in our power. We have to know what we can't fix. So I think that's how to help students bounce back.
Well, Adina, it's been really fun talking to you. Thanks so much for your advice. Thanks for sharing what you've shared. If people want more information about Adina Glickman and the way that you can help their children to boost their academic resilience and to do better at school, to find more joy in their learning, and maybe even ways that they can tease out their children's strengths and help their children to be what they want to be rather than what their parents want them to be, where should they go? What can you help them with?
I offer free consultations. They can just go to my website, adinaglickman.com, and I would love to talk with them about what great parents they are already.
Oh, you've been really generous with your time. Thanks so much for the conversation.
Thank you so much. Great questions.
Thanks so much, Adina. I hope that you've enjoyed the podcast, the conversation that we've had with Adina Glickman on today's Happy Families podcast. If you'd like to leave a rating and review of the podcast, we just so appreciate that, because people get to find out about all the great stuff that we're doing to help your family be happier and theirs as well. Please go to the place where you download your podcasts and leave a 5-star rating. Thanks. The 4 and 3, don't need them so much. Definitely nothing lower than a 5-star rating, please. Is that okay? I'm getting looked at like I'm not allowed to beg. Okay, I'll stop groveling. We'd love for you to leave your ratings and reviews. I feel like I've just gotten in trouble from the headmaster. Please leave your ratings and reviews wherever you get your podcasts, and that will help other people to find out about what we're doing here. Oh dear. If you'd like more information about how we can help your family be happier, go to happyfamilies.com.au or find us at Instagram or on Facebook at Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families.